What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Talking Thrones. Game of Thrones Season 7 is just days away, so I wanted to bring you something special right before the premiere, that way everyone can get a good idea of what to expect this season. I reached out to some of the greatest minds in this community to all come together for something epic. Before we get started, I have to thank every single person that was involved and helped contribute to this video. I really appreciate that, and I think everyone listening right now is going to really enjoy this. In this video, there are over 10 character breakdowns or predictions for this season. Make sure you listen until the very end of this video because you aren't going to want to miss any of them. So without wasting any more of your time, let's begin.
When this journey of a Game of Thrones first started, it was amazing to watch the great game in all its glory. From the War of the Five Kings, the masterful politics played between Varys and Baelish, all the way to the Battle of the Bastards. But as time has gone by and the show has progressed, the significance of who sits on the Iron Throne has become completely irrelevant in the face of the growing threat north of the Wall. Although Cersei is clinging onto power and Daenerys is looking to seize control of the Seven Kingdoms, sooner or later, anyone who wants to survive will have to unite to even stand a chance of defeating the callous Night King and his army of White Walkers and Whites. He made his move on Hardhome in Season 5, creating that iconic moment between him and Jon Snow, and he shocked everyone in Season 6 when he was able to actually touch Bran in one of his visions, which ultimately forced Bran and Meera to flee back to the Wall. So, the burning question on everyone's lips is, what will Season 7 bring with the Night King? He's spent thousands of years building up his army, even taking on newborn baby recruits, but there is still a colossal fortification that stands in his way. A 300-mile long frozen wall designed with the sole purpose of stopping him from ever setting foot on mainland Westeros. Whilst many people think he will overcome this obstacle by taking control of one of Daenerys' dragons as a result of Jon Snow's mission north of the Wall, I believe that the Night King has already obtained a method, or he knows what he must do in order to breach the Wall. Popular theories suggest ever since Bran was marked, allowing the Night King into the Three-Eyed Raven's cave, that once he passes through the wall with Meera, it will also allow the Night King and his army to follow suit. But I completely disagree. If that was the case, then Benjen Stark would have either never allowed Bran to go back to Castle Black, or he would have gone with them to protect him. Instead, he specifically talks about the ancient magic that was used to construct the wall, and that whilst it stands, the dead cannot pass. He cannot pass. I also refuse to believe that the Night King will need to use a white dragon to execute his plan, because that would mean the purpose of his uprising could only be fulfilled by a stroke of pure insane luck. That he would even be dependent on being presented with such a gift at this stage would make his campaign a complete farce. Once he learns that Jon Snow has led a company north of the Wall, the Night King will throw everything at him in an attempt to crush Westeros' greatest hope. He will keep a close watch on Bran, who is probably the only person alive who can find the answer of how to truly defeat him. But ultimately, he has his secret weapons, and he is heading towards the frozen wall, and before the season ends, it will crumble and fall.
Hey guys, this is Kev, the dork from YouTube channel Bridge4. Pumped to see this entire compilation, so thank you to Dan from Talking Thrones for putting this together. Let's quickly go over The Hound and the Brotherhood Without Banners. The entire season seems like it's going to kick butt, but I'm really looking forward to the storylines that these dudes will be involved in. So first off, when people ask me which house I would be loyal to, expecting me to say the Starks, my answer is none. I'd want to be one of the free folk, or if I lived south of the Wall, I'd want to join up with the Brotherhood Without Banners. Fighting for those who cannot defend themselves is an awesome concept, and accordingly, I named my first Clash of Clans account Beric Dondarrion back in the day. But Beric's time is running short, unfortunately. It's no secret that he was raised back to life for a 6th time after the Hound killed him, so he's living his 7th life right now. And considering how important a number 7 is in terms of Game of Thrones, many fans expect this 7th life to be his last one. The question is, will he go down swinging, or will he magically raise someone from the dead by giving them his own life? And if it happens, leading candidates are Jon and the Hound, but personally, I wish he would raise Thoros Amira because I love Thoros' character and want to see him stick around as long as possible. Very underappreciated. If y'all didn't know, Thoros won a bunch of melees at tourneys off-screen. He's even beaten the Hound 3 times. Granted, he lights his sword on fire with wildfire, and Sandor is afraid of fire. But regardless, Thoros is a legit badass. He proved this at the Siege of Pike during the Greyjoy Rebellion, as he was the first through the breach of the walls. So let's get pumped to finally see him kick some butt in Season 7. I'm also curious if Thoros and the Brotherhood will run into Melisandre as she heads south, and it will be cool to see the dynamic if they reunite with Gendry, whom they gave to Melisandre back in the day. I suspect that Thoros' sword, burning with wildfire, can kill White Walkers since wildfire is made from magical spells. But I also suspect that Beric's sword can not only kill whites, but kill White Walkers since it's not ordinary fire. It's magical in a sense since he lights his sword on fire from his own magical blood. He's like a dragon, fire made flesh. And of course, the beloved Sandor Clegane. He's now teamed up with the Brotherhood. There are a bunch of cool directions that his story can go. Sandor and Arya need to reunite. Their dynamic rocked. It'll also be interesting to see what happens if him and Brienne run into each other a second time, considering that she thinks she killed him. Sandor may expose Littlefinger's betrayal of Ned Stark back in Season 1, and Sandor may kill his brother in Clegane Bowl, but instead of doing it out of anger, my buddy Joseph Raymond came up with the concept of a mercy kill, because for all intents and purposes, his brother's already dead. And I am very interested in Sandor overcoming his fear of fire, since it will be key in fighting the dead army. But even more importantly, on a personal level, overcoming his fear of fire is key to Sandor finally releasing the demons that have haunted him his entire life. And last but not least, this one goes out to all the Sand shippers. Sandor and Sansa have to reunite. It'd be awesome if they fell in love, but unfortunately, I see Sandor going down protecting Sansa.
Hi everyone. For those of you who don't know us, we are the Order of the Green Hand, here to give our Season 7 predictions for the infamous twincest duo, Jaime and Cersei.
So, at first we were going to break it up and go through Cersei's predictions and then Jaime's. But since, for at least the first half of the season, the fates of Jaime and Cersei will be intertwined, as they have been since the beginning of the show, we decided to do them together. At the end of last season, Jaime had just returned to King's Landing from tie-winning Edmure Tully into surrendering Riverrun, to find the absolute carnage Cersei had inflicted on the city when she blew up Baelor's Sept. On top of that, he makes his way into Magors to find Cersei crowning herself queen, which definitely didn't seem to please Jaime on a number of levels. First, and most obvious, her sitting there means his last living child is clearly dead, and based on what he saw when he arrived, he's probably at least 95% sure Cersei had something to do with Tommen's death. On a less personal level, he has to know that no one is going to accept Cersei as the rightful ruler of the Seven Kingdoms, and her sitting her sweet little ass in that chair, donning that crown, and proclaiming herself Queen Cersei of House Lannister, first of her name, Queen of the Andals, the Rhoynar, and the First Men, and Protector of the Realm, is practically a declaration of war, which he likely knows will result in him having to fight just about everyone, especially since she didn't even use the Baratheon name to justify her position.
So where does it go from here? Well, it's clear from the trailers and the title of the first episode that Dany will be landing on Dragonstone in the Season 7 premiere, which I'd like to say is Cersei's biggest problem, but it's more likely that she'll be her own biggest problem. Her thirst for power may have been partially quenched, but unhinged rulers like Cersei tend to suffer from paranoia, and they've been setting up the Maggie the Frog prophecy as the source of what will inevitably become Cersei's downfall for a few seasons now. And with all of her children dead, there's only one part of the prophecy that is yet to come to fruition: the Valonqar. Now, since it is clear that Lena Headey has a contract for Season 8, Cersei's not going to be killed by either of her younger brothers this season. But that doesn't mean that the prophecy won't be the source of her undoing. As mentioned a moment ago, Jaime did not look pleased with Cersei's decision to claim the Iron Throne, but his love and devotion to her hasn't failed yet, so he will likely do everything he can to try to stop her from going completely off the rails. But Cersei, at this point, likely sees Tyrion as neutralized, and therefore no threat to her where the prophecy is concerned, which leaves only Jaime.
As time goes on, and Jaime questions more and more of her decisions, it is likely that Cersei will begin to distrust him, which will eventually grow into fear that he is the Valonqar. In a recent interview, Lena Headey revealed that Cersei is an absolute horrible cow to one character in particular next season. We think this person is Jaime, as he is the only one Cersei being horrible to would have any effect or be noteworthy. Cersei being a horrible cow to everyone else is just par for the course, and the same song and dance we've been watching for 6 seasons. We see this as the likely cause of Jaime's support for her starting to dwindle, leading to a fracture in the relationship and his decision to head to Casterly Rock, which he absolutely needs to do at some point because there is no one ruling there, and since he was stripped of his white cloak last season, he is now able to become the Lord of Casterly Rock and Warden of the West. Now, in the books, Cersei ends up writing a letter to Jaime asking for help, which he decides to ignore. I found this to be a huge moment for Jaime as a character, because up until this point, every single decision and action he had taken revolved around keeping Cersei happy and keeping their secret. I really hope the show goes this route, and has a similar situation ensue, where Cersei writes to him at Casterly Rock and he ignores this request, which I think will be even more powerful played out on screen.
But how will the season end for Jaime and Cersei? Well, the way we see it, there can really only be one ending for these two, given everything else that's going on in the story. Jaime, as the Lord of Casterly Rock and Warden of the West, joins the alliance of Dany, Jon, the Vale, the Reach, and Dorne, and marches north to fight the White Walkers, while Cersei rots in one of Dany's dungeons, awaiting what will likely be an epic execution in Season 8. I must admit, I'm really hoping to see Tyrion feed her to his dragon, which, at least in the books, he says has been a dream of his since he was a boy.
Hey, it's GrayArea, and I'm going to tell you my predictions for Tyrion Lannister in Season 7. Tyrion is in his second power position as a hand to a king or queen. His first time in such a position, he excelled greatly and proved his worth as a hand. He made valuable alliances, stacked the small council in his favor, and defended the city during the Battle of Blackwater. Tyrion is Daenerys' hand of the queen, and he will continue to provide her with great counsel. Tyrion will spend a lot of time educating Daenerys on the different houses of Westeros and Westeros in general, because Daenerys does not know a lot about the place she's trying to conquer. I think Tyrion will act as not only her counsel, but her emissary and a strategic planner. I think he will speak on her behalf to some of the great lords of Westeros. A big role Tyrion will play in Season 7 is the taking of Casterly Rock. I do think Tyrion will come up with a strategy to take Casterly Rock because no one knows Casterly Rock like Tyrion. Tyrion as a youth was put in charge of the sewers and drains of Casterly Rock. And just like Lan the Clever, the plan will be to sneak into Casterly Rock through the sewers or drains and take the rock from the inside out. I do think that Tyrion is going to be conflicted at some point in the season because he does not like Cersei, but he loves Jaime. Jaime has always been compassionate to Tyrion, and Tyrion loves him. And he will probably try to get word to Jaime through a raven or maybe personally telling him to join his side, tell Cersei to lay down her swords or she's going to die. Jaime might join him, but Cersei absolutely will fight to the death against Daenerys. It's also going to be interesting to see how Tyrion interacts with Dorne. Being the Sand Snakes killed Myrcella, Tyrion hated Joffrey, but he loved Myrcella and Tommen. So there might be some conflict between Tyrion and Dorne in the Chamber of the Painted Table. Tyrion also knows Jon and has given Jon counsel before and also saved him from a beating at the Wall. So in Season 7, Tyrion will also act as a liaison or a mediator between Daenerys and Jon. In Season 7, I'm sure Tyrion will be drinking lots of Imp's Delight and knowing lots of things, strategy being one of them. My one bold prediction on Tyrion is that he is going to want to know where Sansa is. He is her husband. He may want to reclaim his wife, or it may be forced upon him in order to form an allegiance between the North and Daenerys. Tyrion is obsessed with dragons, but I feel if the dragons get kind of out of control and start hunting people instead of animals as winter is here and game will be scarce, Tyrion might realize the threat that dragons bring to Westeros. I don't think Tyrion will ride a dragon this season. I don't think Tyrion will find out he's a Targaryen this season because I don't think Tyrion is a Targaryen. But we will get strategic Season 2 Tyrion counseling Daenerys and strategizing the best way to take Westeros until they realize the greatest threat is north of the Wall.
What's the deal, my people? You know this, Don Tony Teflon, and I'm back at you with another one. And these are my predictions for Bran Stark in the upcoming season, number 7 of Game of Thrones. Now, we remember Bran last season and all the things he did, and now we've seen that Bran was dropped off by his own Uncle Benjen, and Benjen wouldn't leave him the horse. Oh, no. That was too much for Benjen to do for his own little nephew. He had to take off on that horse. And that forced Mira to drag Bran around some more. Alright, so now after this, we've seen Bran touch the weirwood tree and find out the truth of Jon Snow's parentage. And I think that this will be the main theme in what's going to happen with Bran this season. So as we have seen in the clips, we know that Bran Stark definitely will make his way to the wall. Now at this time when he makes his way to the wall, Ed will inform him that Jon is no longer the Lord Commander there and everything that happened with the Boltons. And I think at this time word will have already spread that Jon has won the war of the Battle of the Bastards. This could be also a time where Bran does get the wheelchair that we see later on. After this, Bran will then make his way to Winterfell. Now we must remember that the Night's King did touch Bran and left with what I'm going to call frost scale on his arm. Now I know people believe that this is what's going to give the White Walkers the power to destroy the wall, but it does not. All this does is allow the Night King to track Bran Stark, because we must understand that what the White Walkers want is to kill the children of the forest and the Green Seers. So they are tracking them, and that's what's going to happen. So I think that they will separate once Bran gets to Winterfell or close to it from Mira. Mira will then head back to her homeland, and she may go there under orders to Bran to get Howland Reed and bring him back to Bran. Now, once Bran is then reunited with his family, I do believe he'll get there and Jon Snow will not be there at this time. Now, we do see the picture of Sansa Stark walking slowly away from the tree in the last trailer. I think right here, Bran could have taken her into the weirwood himself and exposed some lies, possibly of Peter Baelish, or he took her and shown her Jon's true birth, and she is not entirely know what to do with that situation, that knowing that Jon is a Targaryen, that he is the rightful king of Westeros. I do believe that Bran thinks by saying this that Jon will be able to unite the realm behind him under the Targaryen banner. I'd just like to say thank you for Talking Thrones, for having me on your channel. I truly do appreciate it, and you know who it is. Peace! And stay sexy.
So, what we know from Tormund so far is that he will be part of the discussions with the Northern Lords, he will interact with Brienne in the Winterfell courtyard, and he will go beyond the wall and fight some whites with Jon. With that being said, I think Brienne will play a big role in Tormund's storyline this season. They made it clear last season that he was interested in her, and so they must want to do something with that in the plot, especially since we got those pictures of them together. During the scene with the Northern Lords, it wouldn't be too surprising to see Tormund supporting anything that Jon wants to do, and also continuing to be a good leader for the wildlings. But since Brienne is in that scene as well, I was thinking that they may hint to his crush on her once again. Maybe he will try to sound tough in front of everyone and then sneak a look at her or something. Then I feel like their relationship will evolve a bit more later, when Brienne is training Podrick in the courtyard. Tormund will probably flirt with her there, and it would be cool if we could even see them fight each other. Just something that would help Tormund realize how tough Brienne actually is. Kinda like what happened to her with Jaime. Gwendolyn Christie said recently in an interview that what's recurrent in Brienne's life is forming relationships with people that start with an opposing force, then a begrudging mutual respect, and out of that, a deep respect and pure love. That happens again this season. Brienne will realize a deep alliance. So I'm assuming that has to do with Tormund. Brienne might affect Tormund in some way that will be important when he heads beyond the wall. Tormund may do something that he wouldn't have done if it weren't for Brienne. But I also think they want to give us a bit of a tragedy here. This relationship can't work, so I'm worried that they will end up killing one of them. It's been a big fear of mine for a while now that Tormund's end will come during his adventures beyond the wall. I would hate to see Tormund die, and I hope he doesn't. But if he has to go, since he's all about big, large things, I hope he gets taken out by a big, large thing as well. Like a giant. Oh, and I hope the weapon that he's carrying in the trailers does turn out to be made of dragon glass. I would love to see him kill not only whites, but at least one White Walker too.
Sansa Stark has often been a polarizing character in Game of Thrones, often conflicted between remaining loyal to her family and indulgence in romantic fantasies, which were the product of her upbringing. Throughout the series, Sansa has had her childlike romantic view of the world shattered completely, and now sits in a place where she may be uncertain of her role. With Littlefinger whispering in her ear in Season 7, Sansa may grow conflicted, knowing that Jon rules the North even though it is rightfully her realm. In the end, however, Sansa will likely see through Littlefinger's plot and slay him for his deception, possibly even fulfilling the ghost of Highheart's prophecy from A Storm of Swords. And later I dreamt that same maid again, slaying a savage giant in a castle built of snow. If Winterfell is the castle of snow, could Littlefinger be the giant? Of the remaining Starks in Game of Thrones, Sansa is the least liked by the audience, and seems to be the least useful in furthering the plot. If any Stark were to die this season, it would be Sansa. We are at a point in the show where time is absolutely crucial. Many secondary characters may die this season. Sansa may very well be one.
Hi, this is Gemma from Secrets of the Citadel, and Dan has asked me to talk about the fate of Samwell Tarly in Season 7. He's asked me to keep this brief, which isn't my forte, so I'll do my best to sum this up as concisely as possible. My predictions for Sam in Season 7 are that he will, with the help of Archmaester Marwyn, find a cure for Jorah Mormont's grayscale. I also believe he'll discover some of the secrets regarding how to make Valyrian steel. That's not to say he'll actually be able to pull off the feat personally, as I believe he'll be missing a few essential ingredients. If only there was a blacksmith and some dragons to hand. And the final thing I think he's going to find in the Citadel is information that not only proves that Jon is a Targaryen, but that he isn't even a bastard, that Rhaegar and Lyanna were married and he is legitimate. I do, however, feel that, for a time at least, he's not going to connect all of these dots, and he'll need to have a chat with a certain Greenseer before he fully understands the implications of what he's found.
Hey there everybody, it's Kevin from the BattProductions, and today I'm going to give my prediction on what's going to be in store this season for the constantly miserable looking character, Jon Snow. Now, from what we know, Jon is going to have to start out the season picking up the pieces from the previously warring North and ask them to unite under their new King of the North, which may be a little rocky, but I'm pretty sure he'll get that one done pretty quickly. Speaking of the King of the North title, it looks like Jon has to worry about Sansa and Littlefinger setting up a coup of some type against him. Fortunately, I'm pretty confident he'll last until the very last episode of this whole series, so this will be worked out in a way that is going to be very favorable to him remaining as King of the North, and Littlefinger not being around anymore. Now, being King of the North means that he's probably going to have to meet with a certain Dragon Queen at some point, probably in the second or third episode of the season, to discuss his lands joining Daenerys' side under what I have to predict is going to be a marriage proposal between the two. These great forces combined are going to be enough to defeat Cersei's reign and give the best possible chance of fending off the White Walkers to the rest of Westeros. Maybe he'll even form a connection by the end of the season with a certain dragon named after his Papa Rhaegar. Now, looking beyond the wall, it seems that Jon is going to be heading north this season, along with a few of his companions for an unknown mission. This is possibly to recover Bran, or it's to do more research about the Army of the Dead. Not totally sure on that one. It looks like this may be an opportunity for Jon to confront his ultimate importance of the series, which is that of Azor Ahai, or the prince that was promised. Last predictions for Lord Jon Snow includes reunions with his other siblings, Arya Stark by the end of the season, and Bran Stark a little bit earlier on in the season, probably around episode 5 or so. And lastly, it definitely appears that they're going to tease telling who his parents are, but for some reason, I don't think anyone is going to explicitly tell him that his father is Rhaegar and Lyanna is his mother, even though someone like Bran will be around to do it. So I think one more season of Jon knowing absolutely nothing is in store. Well, that's it for my predictions. Thank you so much for listening, and you can always check out my channel on the YouTube at the BattProductions to hear more commentary from me on the series.
Hi everybody, my name is PhilTheIssuesGuy from PhilTheIssuesGuy's channel here on YouTube, and I'm so excited to be here, and huge thanks for inviting me. Today, I'm going to be talking about my character, which is Arya Stark. Now, Arya is an interesting character to look at because so much of her story has been away from the main narrative. She's been away from everyone in her family, no contact to her home, and she's been off Westeros for a while. So looking at her is interesting to think where her character is going to go, coming off what happened with Walder Frey at the Twins, killing him, and I think most people do believe, and I do as well, that she's going to eventually head to Winterfell. I think she'll get there earlier in the season rather than later. And I think when she gets back there will be a lot of reunions. I think Arya this season is going to be all about reunions with different characters. Initially reconnecting with her family, then maybe eventually crossing paths with the Hound and Gendry again throughout the season. That possibly could happen as well. Definitely think her and Sansa will meet and initially have a positive reaction to each other, but it might end up getting a little heated at times throughout. But Arya, in a sense, is going to be a crazed wolf you can't control. Instead of diplomacy or duplicitous action like someone like Sansa has learned how to do over her time since they've been split, Arya is just going to act. And if anyone tries to lay any seeds of discontent throughout the Stark family, like someone like Littlefinger, for instance, I don't think Arya is going to hesitate to act and just stop those people. She's not going to listen to anybody. She's not going to listen to Jon, King of the North. She's not going to listen to Sansa. She's not going to listen to Bran. She's going to do whatever she feels like she has to do to help House Stark. I also think it's going to be really fun this season to watch her learn about the events, about what all the other characters have gone through, and as she discovers who's alive, who has passed, who's gone. It's going to be just fun to see things through Arya's eyes, see some of those events for the first time again. And this last one may be more of a want than a think, but I gotta believe that now is finally the time. I've talked a lot about reunions, reconnecting. There's one last reunion to go. And that's right, I do think this is the season that we finally get the reconnection between Arya and Nymeria. And I do think we'll see the wolf pack, and it will serve as a parallel between Arya reconnecting with her wolf pack of the Stark family. Not to mention, if she does meet up with Bran again, it wouldn't take him too much time. He could just take a little time out of his schedule battling the Night King to just do a little bit of a LoJack wolfing kind of situation, a direwolf LoJack situation, and figure out where the hell Nymeria is. It wouldn't take too much time, and it would be a really good gift Bran could give to Arya on their reunion. Thank you so much. Those are some of my thoughts about Arya going into Season 7. And again, if you want to check out more of my stuff, check out PhilTheIssuesGuy here on YouTube, and huge thanks for having me here on this channel. It's going to be a great season of Game of Thrones.
Hey guys, this is Chris from SmokeScreen, and first off, Dan, thank you for having me back on Talking Thrones. Really appreciate the opportunity. So let's talk about some Season 7 predictions and talk about what's going to happen with Melisandre. And I gotta say right off the bat, I'm kind of worried about Melisandre. The first thing that worried me is that she's going to be at Con of Thrones. Now, she did end up canceling that, but she was going to be there at Con of Thrones, and every single other actor that played on Game of Thrones there was already dead in the show. So that kind of bothered me a bit, although originally she was not scheduled to be on the panel with all the dead characters. So, I don't know, I'm not really sure if that plays into it, but it did worry me a bit that she was going to be there. But the point being is that that kind of bothered me because I wasn't really sure if she was going to make it to Season 8. So anyway, there's a couple things we do know. We do know from the trailer now she does make it to Dragonstone. So that's very, very important here because we know that from the previous season that Melisandre and Arya had this little meeting when they were in the Riverlands with the Brotherhood Without Banners, and this is when Melisandre, of course, came to take Gendry because she wanted to burn him alive. But good thing for Gendry, Stannis wanted a little bit of proof, and therefore she did the little leeching trick to show how powerful King's blood was. And of course, Gendry is Robert Baratheon's son and does have King's blood in his veins, and of course we know that means Valyrian blood. But anyway, this is a very, very important scene because she does tell Arya, we will meet again. She kind of took the Ghost of High Hearts thing in the books where she sees a darkness in Arya. She says she sees blue eyes and green eyes, etc., that she's going to close forever. And of course that pointed to Arya becoming a faceless man over in Braavos with Jack and Hagar. But the point being here that I do think this is going to happen. Now, Melisandre did get put on Arya's list because she took Gendry. So that is the big question, of course. When they meet again, which I think they will in Season 7, will Arya try to kill Melisandre? Now, of course, Melisandre probably has a few tricks up her sleeve. She's not going to be easily killed. She is a pretty damn powerful witch, regardless if you believe there's actually a R'hllor, Red God, whatever, or it's just magical stuff she's learned through the prism of religion. The point being here that she's not going to be a pushover, but Arya is also a dangerous motherfucker too. So initially I thought that Arya may come across Melisandre in the Riverlands. She may take her out. She may not make it through Season 8 since Jon has now banished her. And of course that happened last year when Jon found out from Davos that Melisandre had burned Shireen. Davos wanted to have her killed immediately, but Jon didn't really know the full story, and she thought she was doing it for a bigger reason to save the damn world. So Jon basically banished her from the north, and the last we saw of Melisandre, she was riding south on a horse, and of course she's heading right in the direction of Arya, who is still in the Riverlands after she took care of Walder Frey and made some damn Frey pie. And of course, as a reminder, last year in Season 6, the Brotherhood Without Banners is now heading north with the Hound, and I definitely think there's going to be a Hound Arya reunion or a Gendry Arya reunion, or both for that matter, so I think that's a perfect opportunity for them to be heading north. Perhaps Arya meets up with the Brotherhood Without Banners. She's the one that kind of lets them know what's going on up north. That makes her decide to go home to Winterfell, because we do know from the trailers she does go home to Winterfell, and that would be the perfect opportunity for her to meet Melisandre again, and the perfect opportunity for her to mark her off her list. But the conundrum comes in now is that now we see the trailers, we see Melisandre staring down at somebody as they come up to Dragonstone, and of course that's a lot further southeast than the Riverlands, so she has to make it to Dragonstone. But the question is, does she come out of Dragonstone alive? Now, we're not really sure in the trailer. It looks like she's watching Dany perhaps come up the steps, or it actually may be Jon and Davos when they come to Dragonstone to meet Dany for the first time. So that would indicate that Melisandre is already at Dragonstone when Dany arrives, and I'm going to guess that's going to be in Season 7, Episode 1, as in next fucking Sunday, finally, after a year and a damn half. So if she makes it all the way down to Dragonstone further south in the Riverlands, obviously Arya will not kill her. So how can we have it both ways? How does Melisandre make it all the way to Dragonstone, which is further south in the Riverlands, and have her and Arya cross paths and Arya doesn't actually kill her? Well, one of two things. Either they meet, she recognizes Melisandre, Melisandre of course will remember Arya, and they meet and have a discussion, and she talks about all the things that's happened up north during her time across the Narrow Sea in Braavos, training to become a faceless man, and she tells her that Jon is alive and well, and Sansa's there in Winterfell, and that makes her want to go home. She tells Arya perhaps about Jon being resurrected, that he is the prince that was promised, and Arya's like, okay, I appreciate you helping out my brother, I won't fucking kill you now. So that's certainly a possibility, but the other thing is that the actress, Carice Van Houten, I believe, if I'm pronouncing that right, or Houghton, I'm not really sure. Anyway, the actress that plays Melisandre sent out a picture on her Instagram account many months ago showing her back in the old crone makeup, and I do believe that was for Season 7. I don't think she would put something out that was from Season 6, because we did see what happens when she takes off that damn choker and stops taking her damn medication. So I think Arya and Melisandre will meet again, only Arya will not recognize her this time because she will have removed the choker and stopped taking her potions, and that's how they could get by each other, even have a conversation without Arya knowing actually who it is. Therefore, they could have a meeting, they could meet again and fulfill that little prophecy, so to speak, but Melisandre could also make it all the way down to Dragonstone. So I do think Melisandre will have a role to play as far as kind of filling in Arya on what the hell's been going on in the north, and more importantly to Arya, what the hell's been going on with Jon, and that he is alive and he is resurrected, and he is, in her eyes, the prince that was promised. Very important to the end game of our story, which will make Arya want to kind of go home and stop going on her killing spree, because I'm thinking with Arya that she would like to leave the Riverlands and go straight to King's Landing to take out Cersei, but something has to get her back on the path of rejoining her wolf pack, so to speak, and heading home to Winterfell. So the question is, of course, what the hell happens once Melisandre makes it to Dragonstone? She goes down to Dragonstone, which does make sense if you think about it, because this was a Baratheon-held castle. This is where Stannis was holed up the entire time before he went on his conquest. So it makes complete sense that she would be there. The question is of what happens when Dany gets there, if she's already there, and will she hang out with Dany and kind of be up her ass, or does she still believe Jon is the prince that was promised once she sees Dany and fire made flesh, as in 3 fucking dragons? So I think that's certainly a possibility, that she hangs out with Dany a little bit and tries to discover what's going on with her, because she's never heard of her, she's never seen these dragons. It may shake her confidence in her own damn religion a bit more, because she already thinks Jon is the prince that was promised, but now she's going to see this Dany character with fire made flesh, real fucking dragons, and she's going to be a bit confused. But what happens when Jon and Davos go to Dragonstone and see Melisandre there, if that happens at all? I think that's a big possibility. We do know Jon's going to head south from the trailers. He's going to meet Dany the first time, and Davos is going to be with him, being his right-hand man, and they run into Melisandre there. Now, Jon wouldn't necessarily have any pull there on Dragonstone, since that's Dany's castle, so Jon probably wouldn't and probably couldn't have her executed, although Davos would probably still like to do that himself. But then again, I could see a scene where Jon and Davos walk in to talk to Dany for the first time, or the first couple times during their visit to Dragonstone. Melisandre's there, and they tell Dany what actually happened, and Dany, considering herself the new queen of Westeros, could actually dish out punishment to Melisandre and kill her, and I think this would actually be the perfect death for her. I don't want her to die. I do want her to play a bigger role in the endgame of our story, but she could die by fire, and I think that would be the perfect ending, especially if it's dragon fire. So I'm not saying that's going to happen or I want it to happen, because I do think that she has a bigger role to play in the endgame, because don't forget, we did see in a previous season when Stannis and them went to attack King's Landing at the Battle of the Blackwater, all those men died in that wildfire. Davos had talked Stannis into leaving Melisandre behind, and when they get back to Dragonstone, Melisandre said she could have saved those men. What does that actually mean? And does that mean something's going to happen in the endgame of our story with Melisandre being involved in the Great War, where she's not actually left behind this time? Did that actually mean something? What could she have done to save those men and help Stannis win that war like she said would happen if she was there, since Tyrion had the whole wildfire trick up his sleeve? So anyway, that's kind of my overview of what I think is going to happen in Season 7. I'm really torn between Melisandre actually living through Season 7 and making it to Season 8, because I do think she could play a role in the endgame because of the whole Blackwater reference, but I could also see Dany actually punishing her, you know, dishing out the new Queen's Justice after Jon and Davos tell Dany what she did, even though she thought she was doing it for a good reason. And I've also mentioned this in quite a few live streams, I wanted to see the Kinvara Melisandre meeting, which may or may not happen. I don't know if the Kinvara actress is going to be back in Season 7 whatsoever, but I wanted to see a Red Priestess from Essos who believes Dany is the prince that was promised, or the princess that was promised, come over and meet Melisandre, who thinks Jon is the prince that was promised. I wanted them to come together and have a fucking mud wrestling match to argue over who the actual prince that was promised is, or if they could agree that they both were, or whatever. I just wanted to see that interaction, but I don't think we're going to see that, unfortunately, because I don't think Kinvara is going to come over with Dany to Westeros.
I want to thank each and every person that contributed to this video. GrayArea, Order of the Green Hand, Secrets of the Citadel, SmokeScreen, Bridge4, Ideas of Ice and Fire, Tony Teflon, Game of Theories, BattProductions, PhilTheIssuesGuy, and BecauseGeek. I really appreciate all of you reaching back out to me and joining the collaboration. When I got the idea to make a video like this, I wasn't really sure what kind of response I would get, because there were a few of you that I had never spoken to before. But you all are really cool people and reached back out to me anyway to collab, and I respect that and thank you for that. If anyone is interested in checking out any of these channels' other work, all of their links are down in the description. They each make their own interesting and unique content over on their respected channels that I would recommend checking out when you can. I want to thank everyone else for stopping by and watching this video, especially if you listened all the way until the end. There is only 2 days left until episode 1 premieres, and I can't wait to finally watch some new episodes and discuss them all with you. I'm not sure if I'm going to release anything tomorrow or not, but I'll definitely see you after the premiere. Before I go, I want to thank the supporters of this channel that are on Patreon. Your generosity means a lot to me and this channel. I love you all, and I'll see you down below in the comment section. Bye.